is intended to help you out with adding decimals to the thousandths. Hopefully after this video you'll be able to set up the problem correctly, perform the steps of the standard algorithm, and check using estimation. As you go through this, being able to check using estimation is an important step, and following the algorithm. We'll talk about some of the steps that students make, common mistakes that they make, and using the algorithm as we go through these, as we do a few examples. So as you do this, you should be able to complete the lesson, adding decimals to thousands, after you watch this video if you have any questions. All right, let's go ahead and look at the first problems. Okay, so this first problem is the ones that students have the most problem with this. So if we just look at this, basically if you just look here, we're looking at basically a number. This is close to 3 and 42. So we're just looking at something. So my estimate would be 42 plus 3. So we're just looking at something close to 45. So our answer should be close to 45, and that's a pretty close estimate because this number is pretty close to 3. So what happens on these though is students want to just put these here, and the most common mistake is students will just put these out here, and then they'll just put the 42 right under here. The problem is here is you need to add the ones together with the ones, and so I have the ones here and the ones here, and they aren't lined up, and that's what you need to add together so you can carry and if you need to. So this is not the correct way to set it up. Whenever we are adding, we need to line up the decimals. If there's no decimal, in this case we have a whole number, we can always put a decimal after it. And then we can add more zeros after that to make these the same, to have the same place value in it. So if we want to set this up, we go the 2 and 880 thousandths, and then we put 42, make sure our 2's line up, decimals line up, and then if you want to, we can just put the zeros in here. Some students will put a 0 in here too to keep track of those place values. That's totally acceptable because it doesn't change the value of the problem. Then we can add these down. 8 plus 0 is just 8. Again, 8 and 8. Decimal just drops straight down, and we end up with 4 and 4. So 44 and 88 thousandths, which is really close to 45, which is what we had estimated it would be close to. Again, lining up the decimals is very important, and that's something you do when we are adding decimals. They need decimal numbers. We need to line up those decimals. Okay, so one like this, if we just look at it, this is going to be close. We'll say that's close to 67. This is close to 10. So my answer is going to be somewhere around 77. Again, just a close estimate, just give us an idea. Again, we need to line up the decimals. It's a good habit to put this one in addition. Doesn't matter which one goes on top in our standard algorithm, but it's a good habit to always put the first one on top, because then you'll avoid one of the common mistakes with subtraction. So we put 6, these 6 and 54 hundredths, or you can make that, since this one goes out to thousandths, you can make that 540 thousandths. Then you have the same place value. 9 and 393 thousandths. Then we're just going to add those together. So we end up with 0 plus 3 is 3. 9 plus 4 is 13. Carry our 1. And we end up with 5 plus 3 is 8, plus the 1 is 9. Decimal there. 9 plus 6 is 15. 5. Carry our 1. And that would give us 7. So it was 75 and 933 thousandths. Again, lining up our decimals is what we need to do with all of these. That's the biggest mistake students make. So make sure you line up your decimals. Let's go ahead and do another example here. So we again start 8 and 1. We can go ahead and put another 0 here to get that same place value. And then we can just go ahead and add those up. So we get 2. That gives us 10. We have to carry our 1. That gives us 2. Decimal just drops straight down. In addition, 8 and 4 is 12. Carry our 1 and 3. Again, decimals line up. So we can have those there. Now, this one, we didn't make an estimate on that one, but if we make a quick estimate, that's just going to be close to 8 plus 24, which is 32. So the decimals aren't very much on that one. So if we just look at our whole numbers, we can get a quick estimate here. This one too, if we look at it, this really isn't much, so we just know it's not going to be much over 35 because we're adding a small number to 35. So our answer is just going to be close to 35. So let's go ahead and set this up. So we have 0.283. And now I'm just going to go ahead, if we put it up here, we could just go and put those 0 in there to help us line up, realizing our 3, 5 has to line up with the zeros. So we have our decimals there. So in this case, we really don't combine anything together when we are adding, and we end up with just 35 and 283 thousandths for our answer when we add those two together. Okay, so that's what you're going to have to do. The important thing is with these is making sure you line up your decimals. If you do that, you just follow the standard algorithm. That's the only difference between this adding algorithm and what you've done in the past with whole numbers is you just need to make sure you line up your decimals. If you're having problems, just go ahead and put zeros to make them the same size. Just be aware your decimals need to line up. You can put zeros before, after to make those the same size. It won't change the value of anything. Make sure your decimals line up and you should be good with that. Let me know if you have any questions, and this should help you out with adding decimals to the thousandths. You should be able to do that activity now, that lesson. Okay, have a good day. Bye.